Back then, there weren't a lot of us. Today, there's over 70.
Josh, good to spend some time with you, especially since we're on the back of something very exciting. Very exciting for Sourcefin, very exciting for small businesses and the industry at large. But I suppose before we get into that news, assuming someone's clicked into this, watching, has never heard of Sourcefin before, has never heard of Joshua Kadish before, let's start there. Introduce yourself, introduce who you are to the viewers, and then who you are to Sourcefin.
So I'm Josh Kadish. I joined Sourcefin, it was 2021, really got the company started. We had a vision and a problem we were solving. I think what's quite cool is I've played almost every single role in the company, from doing my own deals to doing my own banking, drafting the legals, trying to work out financials. So today I'm the CEO and I manage and run the company. My personal background is that I'm an attorney, practiced at one of the big law firms before coming across into an entrepreneurial setting, something I was always passionate about. Was lucky enough that the people that are used to be their legal professional reached out to me, said they had a problem to solve. It was an idea, a concept, not necessarily yet a business, but I saw there was something to be solved. Became something that I took a big chance on. I'd worked quite long in my legal career through lots of studying, lots of hard late nights before coming to Sourcefin, but it's been the best decision of my life, truly. Every day is a challenge, but a learning day, a development day is something that makes me better. Love what I do, love the company. To those that don't really know Sourcefin well, I guess we always say we're born to enable the forgotten SME. What we mean by that is that there's so much work that gets provided to small and medium enterprises in South Africa. Unfortunately, the problem comes in terms of two big areas. One, naturally, is funding, and the second is service and, I guess, execution of an opportunity. And our vision was to bridge those two gaps. It was a problem we encountered ourselves. So through our founders, they grew their own SMEs into big businesses, but realized in the beginning it's so hard. And even ourselves, when we started Sourcefin, raising debt was really hard. We took for granted our network. We took for granted sort of our ability to dip into our own pockets and bootstrap it in the beginning. So I guess when I meet a client or when we do a deal, I never forget that sort of the problem we're solving, because I went through it, and I think that's what helps a lot. So really what Sourcefin does is it's an assembly of professionals. We say that we're open-minded in the sense that we approach the funding gap completely differently. We start with the opportunity, which really is the order or the invoice to be funded. And what we try to do is see where can we add value for an SME. Is it something where it's purely funding? The SME knows what they're doing. This is a repeat order. They really just need us for funding. Or is it something which is more common to us, where we provide a full suite of professionals, no extra cost? As I said, I'm a lawyer. I'm probably one of 6 to 8 we've got internally. We've got engineers, we've got accountants, we've got really special people around the table that partner with you to perform your work. So if you're somebody listening who has an opportunity, an order, but just either doesn't have the funds, the expertise, even wants to come and have a conversation, that's really what Sourcefin's about.
Amazing, amazing. Take me back to the early days. I know, a little bit about you. You're not the only lawyer in your family. I think there's a long line of lawyers, and it must have been a massive decision for you to make to move away from law into something that was a little bit untested. I'm assuming, and the people at home are assuming, when you joined Sourcefin, the processes were defined. There was a lot of money to back us. There was a coffee machine and there were benefits. Obviously, all of those things were included when you moved away from a really nice position at a law firm that you'd built your way up the ladder, and there was obviously a clear route to growth for you there. Big decision, but I'm sure Sourcefin came with all the benefits all the way at the beginning, or was it a little bit different?
So I always laugh. People look at Sourcefin today, 70 employees, we're in a beautiful building, and people think this is sort of what we're about. But I look back often. I've got some videos and photos on my phone that I look back on, and over 5 years, the journey we took. I'm not going to lie, like you said, came from a really nice background in terms of 4th generation attorney, did a BCom, LLB, and my master's in law, so something I'm super passionate about, studied hard for, worked my way up. But the problem to be solved, and I guess the energy at Sourcefin was so much that it drew me in. I wanted to explore and see the world from an entrepreneur side. And I look back at where we came from, really humble beginnings. One of our founders funding from his own pocket. We were waiting for money to come back in on a deal so I could disperse out. Didn't always have the funds to execute on all the clientele, but it was great. We learned so much. We really, really did fake it till we made it, in the sense that we didn't have divisions and teams like we do today, departments of experts, external legal counsel, accountants. We didn't have any of that. I guess we were hustling. We were building a business deal by deal. But I think that's the power of what we have today. That knowledge gets shared to every employee. I think my whole office that I used to operate out of as an attorney was probably similar size to like the entire team at Sourcefin's office for 6 months. But we didn't need more than that. We were always out, we were always meeting people. I think probably the most people I ever met in such a short space of time was like the first 6 months at Sourcefin. We try and meet every client today still. It's sort of a hallmark of what we do. Try and really partner and meet the people that we want to provide funding to. But yeah, just was hungry to do deals, hungry to learn about the problem in the space, tried a lot of things, paid school fees with some mistakes, especially on the construction side. But I guess all of that made us the company we are today. So yeah, for me, super, super exciting journey. Amazing, and pinch myself that we got here literally in 5.5 years. FNB, which we'll speak about just now, was a central part of that whole journey. But yeah, really proud of what we've achieved, and also know how much we still have. When I think about it in the next 5 years, the vision for Sourcefin and where I can see we going, it's probably going to move just as much as it did in those first 5. So yeah, really, really don't take it for granted. Every day, sort of really grateful and appreciative for the team I've got around me, the deals we've done, the lessons we've learned, the clients that have supported us, the partners that have got us here. But love what I do every single day. Wake up out of bed, want to get to the office. There'll be something new that's gone right or gone wrong, or new people that I've got to sort of educate on what we do. But literally love it, have never looked back. Amazing company, and really grateful for the journey.
Agreed. I think if I reflect on the journey as well, a lot of what you said, rewinding back to those early days, it's not something that someone that has a good career developing in a corporate entity would necessarily join, unless they were passionate about something bigger. And I think, speaking for myself, when I met you for the first time, met Avi, met Marom, it was very clear that perhaps the how wasn't defined, or the what wasn't necessarily defined yet, but the why was very clear. It was crystal clear. There was a problem and there was a purpose, and there was the enablement of that forgotten SMME that for so long the traditional lending space has neglected. And I think you mentioned beautiful office, amazing people that surround us. And I think sometimes Josh, you're very humble in sort of sharing some of Sourcefin's achievements. It's grown unbelievably well. More than 3 billion deployed, over 2,000 SMEs enabled. One of the fastest growing companies on the African continent. NSBC Funder of the Year last year. The accolades, it's a long list, and you've been central to that. And obviously at the start, although there was only a purpose and there was, I think the best way to summarize it is a deal by deal testing phase where you were moving through a process over and over again. Some went well, some went not so well, and you learned from it and you refined the process. And as that was happening, people were taking notice. We didn't realize people were taking notice, but there was someone that was very important at an entity called FNB, called Daniela Keat. She happened to come across Sourcefin, happened to see Avi, and I think let's share that news and then lean into the journey we've taken with FNB over the past few years.
Absolutely. So I think what's great is, as you say, it was FNB initiated. So we were doing our thing, and I think what was great was our relationship banker and I guess the strategic partnership division asked if we want to meet. I wasn't sure what it was about. Back then, I don't even think we had a deadline yet, but I thought maybe we could get a loan, 200 grand would be good. But realistically, they saw a bigger picture. They saw the opportunity in terms of the deals we were already funding, the volumes of money going out and in. And I guess the real problem at the heart of it, which was amazing because not everybody understands the journey that we're on and the problem we're trying to solve. But as a bank, they got it immediately. And they understood that for whatever reasons, it fell outside the traditional funding model. But there was an opportunity to look at a player like Sourcefin, who was still very young and developing, and take a real interest in it as our, I guess, transactional bankers, but with a look towards a partnership. And I think that's what started the journey. So like you mentioned, Daniela and the team, as well as our, I guess, transactional bankers, etc., they really took the time to call the meeting, to ask a whole bunch of questions about what we do, with a pure purpose of actually looking to the bigger picture, which would be adding in some way some sort of cooperation together where we could solve a bigger problem. So really loved that. It was also during COVID times where lockdowns on, lockdowns off, lots of uncertainty. To me, every day felt like a battle to keep the company alive, to be honest. It was hard. Some money had to go out for salaries. That meant money I couldn't fund deals on. So it wasn't easy. But for somebody so early to see the bigger picture, even before we did, was really refreshing. So I guess today, looking at this landmark deal that we've brokered with FNB, it's very deserving from their side, from FNB side. We're proud to partner with them, but they've really walked the journey with us. And from that first engagement, I think they've truly cared. We've had hundreds of meetings since then, spent hours and hours getting to today. And the journey is definitely, we're going to make sure it's worth it. Worth it for Sourcefin, worth it for FNB, and worth it for all those SMEs.
No, absolutely. And I think something that has struck me and something I've learned through the process of collaborating with FNB has been that there's this narrative out in the market that the traditional lending space doesn't care or necessarily understand the plight of SMEs. What I've learned, and I think what you've learned, as we've met more and more people at FNB, not saying this is true for all banks, I'm assuming it is, but what I've learned from that interaction is that the bankers and the bank truly cares about SMEs, small businesses, but in some instances they're not able to support those SMEs with the type of funding or support they need at that point in time. They come from an old school or traditional way of lending where, they are brokering or they're underwriting based on the track record or the collateral or the history of the entrepreneur. And we'll speak about it a bit later, but the opportunity often needs more than that funding, or it needs to stretch beyond the balance sheet. And that's, I think, is what FNB saw, and credit to them, they saw it and were patient enough to work with us for that period. 3.5 years is a long time. I'm sure people are thinking, what on earth would be done in a partnership, getting ready for a partnership for 3.5 years? Tell me a little bit about Sourcefin 3.5 years ago. What did it look like? How did it progress from when you first joined? What did FNB find when they met us for the first time?
So I think FNB believed in the people, and I think that's really what sort of showed us that they were the right team to collaborate with. They believed in our purpose and the people around the table. Back then, there weren't a lot of us. Today, there's over 70. Back then, there were probably between 3 and 5 of us. But I think what they saw was a vision and a single-minded goal from our side, which was to bridge that funding gap in one day at a time, one deal at a time. But they could see we were so resilient and sort of so driven to get there.
But before we hear the answer to that, let me share something important. One of the biggest challenges entrepreneurs face isn't just access to funding. It's understanding the type of funding they actually need. Most people search broadly: business funding, small business loan, funding for my company. But funding doesn't really work like that. In reality, there are different types of funding designed to solve different problems in a business. For example, if you've won a contract but need capital to fulfill the order, that's where purchase order funding or tender funding comes in. If you've already delivered work and you're waiting 30, 60, or even 90 days for a customer to pay, that's where invoice funding can unlock the cash that's already sitting in your business. This is what we call fit-for-purpose funding, matching the right funding to the specific problem your business is trying to solve. And that's exactly what Sourcefin tries to do. Instead of trying to force every business into a generic loan, Sourcefin works with the entrepreneur to understand the opportunity, structure the right type of funding, and help them unlock growth. If you want to learn more about the different funding tools that exist, we've also created a video explaining 10 different types of business funding and how each one solves a very specific business challenge. I'll link that below. So instead of searching broadly for funding, Start by understanding the problem you're trying to solve, and then look for the funding designed to solve it. And if you're not sure where to start, you can always reach out to the team at Sourcefin. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Back then, we didn't have fancy systems. Like I mentioned, no credit line. So realistically, I think they saw a group of guys and ladies that really were going to get to where they wanted to through trial and error. We took every deal, we documented it. When we started the company, there isn't a handbook of the Sourcefin process, the A to Z of how you fund a deal like this. You had to take on a completely different, more open-minded mindset. I think when I look today, we're much more focused, regimented. We built for scale. Back then, I guess we were deal by deal. What was great about it was the lessons that were being learned, sort of were the formative years of how we got to our process today. We took an opportunity to do postmortems after every deal, good or bad. I definitely learned the most from the bad deals, because those are the deals that you'll never forget, even to this day. And fortunately, they're not that many. But I can still probably recite every bad deal from 2021 till today, because those are the ones that stay with you. And I guess what you do is you start learning where you've gone wrong as a company. You educate the team. We've never been a punitive company where we look for fault within our own. We actually rather look for reasons why we can build things into our processes, find out what's gone wrong. Many times it's things that were avoidable and you build in the process. If it's unavoidable, you learn that lesson and you cater. But back then, very different. I think, like you say, 3.5 years is a long time. But ultimately, when you're a startup with 3 to 5 people, no formal process, barely any tech, you got to walk a journey before you're ready to partner with one of the biggest banks in Africa, one of the biggest brands in Africa. So I guess part of the goal was we want to be ready, that by the time that we turn on the opportunity like we have today, we can honor that and we can be proud of it, and FNB won't feel like they made a mistake. So it took time, but you've got to build systems, you've got to get in the right people, you've got to pass all sorts of different cyber security tests and legal tests and things you don't know. I guess when you're at that level, you don't know what you don't know. You're a startup. But what it gave us an opportunity to do was zoom out and build to really scale, build to make Sourcefin a proper enterprise. And I think I thank FNB for that, because indirectly, they're the reason we scaled so quick. Like you mentioned, one of the fastest growing companies on the continent, definitely in the financial sector. So the reason for that is we were sprinting to get to the finish line to really show FNB that we're ready for them.
Agreed. What was also nice about FNB, and it's nice to think about retrospectively, is it gave us the blueprint. They guided us on what a bank or an institution of that size cares about in a small business. And as a result, it accelerated what we focused on. Well, we were able to accelerate our growth because we knew what to focus on. And since we were a lot more focused, we were able to grow a lot faster. And like you said, it helped us scale. I'll never forget the first conversation I had with Marom about FNB. I think it was our very first version of the website. Marom said to me, Jedd, we've just got to put our best foot forward. And I remember the first project we called when it was interacting with FNB right at the beginning. I don't know if you remember, where we had a stream working on website. There was a stream working on process, stream on cybersecurity. The name of that initiative was Dress to Impress, because we knew FNB wanted to see the absolute best. And sometimes we didn't have those things necessarily ready or thought out yet. But like any good small business, we were going to put our best foot forward. We were going to hustle. Sometimes we were going to fake it till we made it. And what was amazing is all of the pieces came together in the end. And those pieces finally came together, Josh, in November last year, November 2025. I remember you sat in the boardroom next door and you officially signed the referral agreement. Take me back to that moment. How did it feel and what did it mean to you?
Yeah, even though it was 3.5 years, it felt, in some regards, felt really quick, and then some it felt like it had taken a decade. I guess the signing was great, but I also felt the pressure of now the real work starts. Like you say, up until then, we were dressing to impress, and I think we did everything in our power to be a small startup SME that can actually play with the big boys. But the second you sign that contract, you're committing and you're saying, I'll look after your clients. And I think that was the key thing, is I wanted to take it so seriously. I understood that for FNB, this was a massive reputational risk to partner with the likes of a Sourcefin. So we're going to be under the microscope. Every deal needs to be carefully curated and looked after. Every client needs to be given attention. So I think for me it was excitement, but also some nerves around what's sort of next for us on this journey. I still feel a bit of nerves, because partnering with a giant like FNB for a company of 70 people is always going to be one where you really want to show your best foot always. But I think what I've been sort of surprised by so far is we've been able to handle so far the capacity that's been thrown at us. I think what we've done probably very well in the last 12 months is build around different processes where we're not reliant on one single person for anything, even myself. And to the extent that we do get this big uptick, which we're starting to really see, I think we'll definitely be ready to make ourselves proud. There'll be some lessons along the way, like there always are, but so far it's been great. So loving it, and just looking forward to serving as many people as we can, as many businesses as we can.
Nice one. You made it all the way to the end of the video. And now the focus shifts to you. You're early. This channel has less than 500 subscribers, and we're only just getting started. The Great Enabler podcast was built to share real wisdom from people who've actually built businesses, so that more entrepreneurs like you can grow something meaningful. If that resonates with you, subscribe and join us. Let's build this platform together. Be one of the early adopters and join the first 1,000 club.